Well, ladies and gentlemen. So Tom Holland went onto a podcast, and he had a bit of a yap session, and he said some pretty interesting things about Spider-Man 4. Now, there have been a ton of rumors surrounding Spider-Man 4 about, like, what is it going to be, potentially? What is it going to be about? Who's going to be in it? And, I remember in the early days of the rumors that were going around, there was a lot of talk around, like, it being a crossover between Spider-Man and Daredevil, and Kingpin being in it, and it being a far more, like, grounded movie, which would honestly make sense. I mean, we saw with the Marvels that Disney was at least at some point interested in crossing over their, like, movie side of things and their TV side of things. So yeah, I mean, I think having Spider-Man crossing over with Charlie Cox's Daredevil, who was about to be getting like a series on Disney Plus set in the MCU definitively. Like, that all made a ton of sense. However, things have changed since then. I mean, at this point in time, it kind of seems like Marvel might not want to be crossing over their movie side of things with their TV side of things, at least not nearly as much as they were planning to, because have you noticed the branding of things where you have where you go to watch whenever you used to watch a Marvel Studios project, there would be the dun 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 dun, what is the Avengers theme, and it would be Marvel Studios, and you had all the flashing images of the movies and whatnot. Did you notice what happened when you watched X-Men 97? Different intro. You had just like a Marvel animation intro. Have you noticed what has been happening with Marvel or with Agatha all along? You don't have the Marvel Studios intro. Now it says Marvel Television. Now, don't get me wrong. It's still like, X-Men 97 isn't really in the MCU. I mean, I think it might be set in the MCU multiverse, but, it's not in our universe, per se. Agatha All Along is still in the MCU, but what I'm trying to get across here is that it does seem like Marvel at this point is wanting to separate out the sort of the different tiers of stuff, where it's like movies are going to be the most important thing. Then you're going to have some of the live-action television, which is still in the MCU, but probably not going to cross over as much. And then, you have, like, the animated stuff, which is, like, sort of in their own universes. Some of them might be in the MCU, some of them might not be. Spider-Man Freshman Year is going to be its own thing, like X-Men 97 was going to be its own thing. I think Eyes of Wakanda might end up being in the MCU. But so yeah, it's just like at this point in time, I don't know if Charlie Cox's Daredevil would ever cross over into a Spider-Man movie because of the reception of everything that they've been doing, all the outcry about superhero fatigue and whatnot. I think when you look at the Marvels, I think Disney's probably going, and Marvel Studios are probably going, like, do people want to see the TV stuff cross over? Now, you'll validly point out the fact that, the Marvels was also just a really bad movie. And nobody really watched Miss Marvel, so that also probably had something to do with it. People are going to watch, like, Spider-Man 4 will hopefully be good, and people are going to watch a Spider-Man movie regardless, and surely Daredevil Born Again is going to be just far more successful than Miss Marvel. All that stuff might be true, but it doesn't change the fact that Marvel, they just tend to be moving away from everything being super connected and super integral to, you need to watch all of this stuff and whatnot. So I guess I say all of that to say that now we're getting rumors that it's like, apparently Sony wants Spider-Man 4 to be another multiversal movie. Which probably wouldn't include Charlie Cox's Daredevil and Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin. But apparently there's like a spat between, Kevin Feige and Sony, and it's just like a lot of rumors. None of it is like super substantiated. But now, Tom Holland is actually giving us some kind of interesting details. So let's watch this first clip here.
When I signed my contract for Spider-Man 1, I signed a 6-picture deal. I was 18 years old. I was more excited than I'd ever been about anything ever. And for the last 10 years, I have been at the beck and call of Marvel and Sony. And proudly so. It's been the best experience of my life. I'm now at a juncture where I can say no. And now that I've been afforded that power, I am struggling to figure out what is the right thing to do. It's meant I've had to put my foot down in certain instances, which I haven't been allowed to do in the past. And I think the learning curve that I'm on right now is dealing with that new sense of power, making sure that I don't abuse it, but making sure that I do the best thing for me rather than for the studio. And really the best thing for the character. I don't want to make another movie for the sake of making it. I don't want
the studio wants you to make another Spider-Man.
Yeah, they do. And I want to make another one. I want to make many more, but I want to do it for the right reasons. And now, like I said to you earlier, sometimes I miss the day when getting the job was the win. Navigating and figuring out what having that kind of power means and that responsibility.
Yeah.
And I'm figuring it out. And I'm speaking to people and asking questions. And, you know, I've been speaking to Downey a lot, but it is something that keeps me up at night. And I'm constantly thinking of like, is this the right thing to do? Am I going to do justice to the character? Am I going to do justice to the fans? I definitely don't want to just make a movie for the sake of it, because that's not what Spider-Man represents.
First of all, Tom Holland, you cheeky bugger. You think I didn't catch that where you said I have great power and I got to figure out the responsibility. That's a good one. You know what? I salute. But anyways, very interesting stuff here. So first of all, Tom Holland swinging his big Spider-Man dick around saying, just to be clear, just putting this out there, I don't have to come back. Like, I'm assuming Tom Holland is probably at this point where it's like, he's probably set for life, assuming that his lifestyle isn't like too crazy. He's not out buying Ferraris or whatever. He's probably set for life. Obviously he has a wife that's also very successful. Are they, I don't know if they've been married actually, but either ways, he's like with Zendaya, who's obviously very like successful. Like, even though he hasn't had a massive career outside of Spider-Man, in fact, most of his movies outside of Spider-Man haven't been received all that well. He probably is at a point where it's like, yeah, I don't need to come back. And he's been talking about how he's been having to put his foot down in some instances. He's been talking about how he's like sort of hinting at like, hey, I want to do not what's right for me, but also what's right for the character. This, to me, I think, is a part of a cheeky little strategy as a part of those negotiations. Putting this stuff out there, putting this stuff out there into the ether, into the public sphere of like, hey, we're having some disagreements, me and Sony. And I'm just saying, like, I'm in a negotiating position, so I'm trying to do what's right for the character. I think that's signaling to the fans so that the fans continue. And by the way, like I could absolutely be totally wrong about this. I'd be willing to bet that a lot of the rumors that we've heard about are true, and that Tom Holland is on the side of, for the love of God, we cannot do a Spider-Man 4 multiverse movie. like I just assume, because Tom Holland is a fan as well, and he I'm sure he cares about Spider-Man. I would assume that Tom Holland probably really does want to make a grounded Spider-Man 4. He wants to just make a Spider-Man movie. Not another Spider-Man movie where he's, I'm Peter Parker, and I'm being mentored by Tony Stark and Doctor Strange. Or Nick Fury. Nick Fury's taking care of me in the second one. Like, he probably doesn't want to make one of those. He probably doesn't want to make like a big giant multiverse crossover event. All the different Spider-Men are in it. Like, he probably doesn't want to make that. he probably just wants to make the movie that they promised at the end of No Way Home, where Peter Parker, he's down on his luck. He's maybe in college and whatnot. He's a reporter for the Daily Bugle, and he has to fight one of his iconic villains and whatnot. Like, I would assume that that's the story that he wants to make. And, if you look at social media, that's the story that most of us want. So I think that Tom Holland is probably in there fighting for us. Now, again, this is pure speculation, okay? But I don't think that it's a coincidence that Tom Holland is out here publicly talking like this. Obviously not disrespecting the studio, but also just kind of letting people know, like, hey, this is happening. And he's probably showing, like, those executives all the fan reactions of what they want. I don't know. I think that that's probably part of the game that's being played.
It's a complicated one. And I feel like I owe it to them to give and deliver the best version of what the next chapter for Spider-Man looks like. And I think that's really important. And I think the creative integrity for something like that is really important. And the studio is on board and supportive and really collaborative. And I've been so blown away by how welcoming they've been into that creative room. But, we're working now with the pedal is to the metal. We're trying to get it going as soon as possible. Things are looking great, but there's still a lot of moving pieces that need to come together for us to hit the ground running. I'm not really sure about how much I can talk about in terms of what are some of the challenges we face creatively and logistically.
No one's listening. Come on.
Yeah. Obviously, one of the things to bear in mind with Marvel is that your film is a small cog in a large machine. And that machine has got to keep running. And you need to make sure that you can fit into that timeline at the right time to benefit the bigger picture.
An infinite number of machines across the multiverse.
Yes, exactly. So, that's one of the challenges we're facing. And the time in which we need to get that done is a tall order, but definitely achievable with the fantastic people we have working on it now. But my biggest thing is the creative. We have a creative and a pitch and a draft, which is excellent. It needs work, but the writers are doing a great job. And I read it 3 weeks ago, and it really lit a fire in me. Zendaya and I sat down and read it together, and we at times were bouncing around the living room this is a real movie worthy of the fans' respect. But there's a few things we need to figure out before we can get that really going. But it's exciting, and I'm really, really excited about it.
So yeah, really interesting stuff there as well. So it seems like he's saying that they want to make this movie soon. I would assume that has to do with them either wanting to get this movie out before Avengers Doomsday, or maybe in between Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. But clearly, whatever this movie is, they want to not. They either want it to tie into that, which kind of worrying if we're talking about it. Maybe perhaps being a multiverse bullshit, yada yada yada, or maybe they don't want it to be multiverse bullshit, so they want to get it out before the stupid multiverse shenanigans start. But yeah, I mean, it's also promising to hear that Tom Holland read the script and that it actually made him excited to make the movie. I really like the way he talks about it, that he doesn't want to make another Spider-Man movie just to make another Spider-Man movie. I really respect that. And I think that that the fact that we're now at a point where Tom Holland doesn't need to make this movie, and so he's able to make certain demands, and he's like, hey, I'll do the movie, but you got to give me an actually good script. Jesus. I think that's cool, and I think that's promising. But he also mentioned something else that I think is kind of interesting and that I kind of want to talk about.
And I'd love to one day do that. If I'd be lucky enough to somehow bring Miles Morales into my Spider-Man universe and into the MCU, I'd love to do for a young kid what Downey did for me.
Yeah.
That's pretty fun that Tom Holland is bringing that up. Now, I've seen some people basically saying like, "Oh, it's too soon to do Miles Morales. Can we just get a Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland before he's dealing with a bunch of other characters?" And it's like I understand that. And when you watch the interview, you can go watch the interview in full, or at least that segment in full. I didn't necessarily get the vibe that like, oh yeah, Miles Morales is going to be in the next Spider-Man movie. Cause you heard Tom Holland there. He's saying that he wants to make many more movies. I think that Tom Holland is basically just saying that like, yeah, like at some point, maybe 2 or 3 movies down, once my Spider-Man has been matured completely and we have a couple Spider-Man movies under the belt of just Spider-Man being Spider-Man, not being a kid, not being in a multiverse bullshit. Yeah, then we bring in a Miles Morales. And so I did not, a lot of people are now like thinking that, oh, Miles is going to show up in the next one. I don't think that's going to happen. Because I agree with a lot of the complaints that this Spider-Man right now has not done enough to warrant a Miles Morales, right? Like I feel like he needs like a full career of being Spider-Man as an adult before you bring in a child. Because remember, Spider-Man in the MCU just graduated high school. Like Tom Holland, I get it, is like 28 years old. Yeah, like the Spider-Man that we know is for all intents and purposes a child. And yeah, then as far as like what kind of Miles Morales are they going to do, I'm not sure. I mean, you could at the end of Tom Holland's career as Spider-Man, maybe you pull the trigger and kill him off and have, a Miles take up the mantle. You could do that, although it's interesting but then you could also, but actually not, sorry, I'm thinking in real time here. The way that he described it kind of makes me think that maybe they want to look at doing like a Spider-Man PS4 situation, right? The current ongoing Spider-Man franchise where we actually have Peter and Miles sort of in action at the same time, because like I guess you could do like the Into the Spider-Verse situation where you have like a multiversal Peter Parker, but I don't want that personally. Again, like after Avengers Secret Wars, I want to be done with the multiverse. I'm good. I'm okay with that. Although they're probably not ever going to be done with the multiverse, but I don't want it to be the main focus of another Spider-Man movie. Okay, that's what I'm saying. So yeah, I think that, but yeah, either way, I don't think that we're going to get Miles in the next Spider-Man movie. I don't think that we're going to get it anytime soon. I think that they know that you want to play the long game with that. Just as far as like keeping your franchise going for a long time, you used Tom Holland's Spider-Man for like another 3 movies. You let that character continue to evolve, and then you bring in a Miles. I think that feels like an obvious way to go. But we'll see. Could be wrong. Maybe they do a dumb thing and they just bring in Miles in the next Spider-Man movie or something. But either way, a lot of stuff to talk about here. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.